You are now listening to the Do Well Collective podcast, where we help Christian millennials put their faith to work through authentic conversations and community. Welcome to season 2 of the Do Well Collective podcast. This season, our central theme is hope. Now, no matter your background, we are all the same. We all need hope. Your dreams, your goals, and your lives are all powered by hope, and we are here to make sure that you live it out. So in this episode, we discuss what hope looks like and where to find it. Now, before we jump in, we want to hear from you. At Do Well Collective, we appreciate feedback and we'd love to receive yours. So give this episode a listen and please leave us a review. In our following episodes, we plan to pick one review and give a shout out to that person. You never know, it could be you. Now to the episode.
Welcome to the Do Well Collective podcast. I'm your host, Craig Bass.
And I'm Jalen Javier.
And welcome to season 2.
Yes, sir.
Season 2, baby.
Yes, sir.
Man, the long-awaited season 2, right?
Yes, the long-awaited season 2, the mystified, the prophesied,
the prophesied season 2, man. It's been a long time coming, right?
It has, man. I've been looking forward to this, man, to the max. I mean, just thinking of. It's going. We're a quarter away from almost a year ago where we started this thing, man. And so to see, how far things have come,
that's true.
It's amazing, man.
That's true.
Yes, bro.
That's true. And it has been an interesting ride because we started out this thing recording on Zoom.
Yeah,
we didn't have like the microphones we needed. We just started recording.
We just started recording, bro. Like we were just like, you know what? Zoom works. You know what? We just gonna go. We just gonna
get in here, bro. Oh my gosh, yeah. So it's great to reminisce and look back on how we got started, and those are going to be things we cherish for a very long time.
Oh yeah.
And thank you all for joining in and listening to the Do Well Collective podcast, because without you, there is no platform for us. So we appreciate you guys.
Yes.
And yeah, and as we get ready to start this season, to jump right into it, we ended last year with our uncut reflections on 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And those got some great feedback, man. I didn't expect it to resonate with people as much as it did, but we got some good feedback on that series.
We really did, man. We thank y'all for listening in to that series, because it was, the feedback we got on some of those episodes are some of the biggest feedback we've ever gotten.
Yes.
I mean, the episode about suffering, that was a winner, man. And to see how people were encouraged and able to look at suffering, which is such a heavy thing, to look at it with some hope.
Yeah.
Is really what we wanted to happen. And truly it leads us right into this season. So Craig, you want to go on into our theme for the year?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I jump into the theme, I highly, highly, highly encourage you, if you didn't listen to Uncut Reflections on 2020, I highly recommend that you go back and listen to those 3 episodes, because they're really good episodes. They're awesome, and it will help you process 2021. It'll help you process, what happened in 2020, and how we can start 2021 with a fresh perspective. And so, without further ado, season 2, our theme for 2021, season 2 is hope. We're going to be centering on hope and focusing all of our episodes on this topic, because hope is exactly what we need in this season, especially coming out of a year like 2020. You have to hold on to hope, because news article after news article and event after event, and the astronomical number of deaths with COVID-19 around the world, and especially if you're listening, you're in America, the numbers just keep climbing.
Yes.
And so hope right now is what the world needs, and it's seriously what we need to focus on. And what the scripture actually tells us to do is to place our hope in a glory that is to come. So that's what we want to focus on in this season too, is hope.
Yes, man, and that's so good, man. To place our hopes, man, and on the glory to come. Because, man, when we look at last year, and I don't want to put last year in a box where everything was negative, right?
Exactly.
Because we definitely know that there were good things that came out of 2020. If you can't think of any good things that came out of 2020, look at yourself. You came out of it. So,
What? You're
hey,
alive.
right.
You alive. Like a Baptist preacher.
Exactly. I'm telling you. So 2020, man, there were some good things that came out of it, but we know that, man, there was a lot of distress.
Yes.
So much distress that we faced as people, man, and just as humanity, man, that went beyond just the US. COVID was indiscriminate. Suffering was indiscriminate. And, it just comes to a place where we have to have hope, because we know that without hope, there's no way to keep going, man. When there looks like there's no other way out, hope is that nectar. Hope is that one thing that's sweet when everything else seems sour. Hope is what we have to long for and hold on to, man. Because if you lose hope, man, like you are in a very, very dangerous place. So
you are. Yeah. That is so true. When you lose hope, you leave yourself vulnerable to really bad thinking. And you leave yourself vulnerable to just any kind of wind. I'm just going to focus on like any kind of wind of teaching.
Come on.
Because your soul is looking for something.
My God, come on.
Is looking for something. And so when you lose hope, and especially when you lose hope that can be found in the scriptures and in the gospel of Jesus Christ, anybody comes along and says, hey, this is where you can find hope.
My God.
Even if that is rooted in evil, you'll be open to it. And we're seeing that in our world. For example, I was listening to this podcast by the New York Times, and the title of it is called Rabbit Hole. And I would highly recommend the podcast. And it's more of an investigative type. I love those investigative podcasts. Yeah. But in the podcast, they interview, and the premise of the podcast is the storyline talks about the internet and how the internet influences people and pushes people to certain ideologies.
Wow.
And they interviewed this lady who was hit pretty hard due to COVID-19, and she lost her job. She lost, almost everything, and she had to move in with a friend, and she spent a lot of time on YouTube. She spent a lot of time on the internet. And then she got pulled into the QAnon, conspiracy theory groups. And that was a prime example of someone getting pulled in because they had lost hope. Because she said several times, like, I had lost hope in our country. I had lost hope in the future. And she consistently said that. Wow. And I was like, wow, that left her open to being drawn into something that she ultimately found out was a lie. It really was just a conspiracy, a group of conspiracists. And I was like, wow, that is crazy how people, when they lose hope, when they don't have anything to hope in, they leave themselves open to just any kind of doctrine.
Dude, my goodness. That's first thing I'm gonna have to check out that podcast, because that joint sounds
bro. It's excellent.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that joint out. What's the name of it one more time before we
Rabbit Hole by the New York Times.
Rabbit Hole. Good gracious. But boy, you said it. You said it, man. You said it to the max right now, where when we lose hope, whether it's through, despair or broken expectations, or, all these different things that happen, suffering, and we leave our hearts open and our souls open for anything, and we're longing, like you said, it opens you up to such vulnerability that anything you might attach yourself to just to have some hope. And whether it's her with conspiracy theories, or whether it's people who have locked in on politics as their
Yep.
salvation, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Whether it's people who lock in on any of just the ills of life, or, drugs or anything. Like, when it gets to a point where you are so desperate, that is when it gets, so critical, man. And so it really pushes me to think, like, you know, this thing of hope, we want to take this season to build hope for people, help people build
Yes.
hope, and
Yes.
help people to understand, where their hopes should lie and where they shouldn't. And, we're not sitting here trying to tell y'all exactly how to live your life. Obviously not. But we are able to speak, even from experience, that
Mm-hmm.
we've been the people at times where we've placed our hope in things. We've placed our hope in specific people. We've placed our hopes in specific jobs and specific opportunities. And even though these things are not bad in and of themselves, when hope is placed in a place where it isn't meant to fit, it's gonna betray you. It's gonna betray
Mm-hmm.
you. It doesn't matter. Listen, I go outside, bro. Listen, if I go outside today and I say, man, you know what? I need to dig up this yard. If I go out here, I don't care how bad I want to dig up this yard, bro. If I go out here and I'm trying to dig up the yard with a fork instead of a shovel, like, my hope is in the
Yes.
wrong instrument, or in the wrong tool, or in the wrong place, even though it may have some type of effect, it's not going to be effective.
Mm-hmm.
And all it's going to lead to is ineffectiveness and frustration.
And frustration that that is so real, and that's why we seriously have to evaluate ourselves, our expectations, our assumptions,
Mm-hmm.
and and our expectations on life, because that can easily happen. We fall into a rut where we are searching, grasping, trying to find somewhere to place our hope in. And God wired us. Everyone is wired the same exact way.
Mm,
Now, depending on who you are and what philosophies that you assign yourselves to, you can try to fill, the God-sized vacuum that we all have in different
mm,
ways.
mm-hmm.
But everybody's doing the same thing.
Come on. Come on.
Everybody's doing it because we're wired the same way. We're
Yes.
we're wired the same way. And what I mean by that, more specifically, that we are humans.
Yes.
We are humans who are in these bodies, who live in space and time, and have a heart with its own will, its emotions, its thoughts,
Mm,
its drives, its desires, and we all are functioning the same exact way.
wow.
And so we are going whenever we find ourselves in times of challenges and suffering, we are going to reach out for something.
Yes. Yes.
That is just a natural reaction, and that's how we're wired. We're meant to reach out for something. That is why it's so important to connect to God,
Yes.
and to connect to the Lord through His Son Jesus Christ,
Yes.
because He is the only place of hope that won't disappoint us.
My God, bro.
Because everything else will eventually disappoint you. If you place your hope in people, people will die. People
Come
will
on.
leave you. People will
Come on.
disappoint you.
Come on.
If you place yourself in your own abilities, you'll get old.
Mm,
You'll become handicapped. Something will happen.
mm-hmm.
If something drastic doesn't happen here and now, and you have a long life, you'll eventually get old,
Exactly.
and you're not going to be able to do the things you were doing when you were a younger person.
Exactly.
And if you put your hope, and as we can see, clearly in
Mm,
2020, if you put your hope in something like the economy or your
mm.
job or your
Ooh,
status,
ooh. Ooh,
something can come and cut you at the knees and you're unemployed.
my gosh.
You know, like
Yeah.
the economy is in the tank. And so
My
it's
goodness.
so important that we lay our trust and our desires and our hope down
Yes.
to the only source that will not disappoint us. I talk about uh Pastor Tim Keller a lot. I know Jalen's like, man, that guy, man, Craig loves Tim Keller.
He
But
fired
I
up. He fired
yeah, he
up.
fine, man. His ministry really blesses me. And
Yeah.
you know, his ministry blessed me in a time of my life where I needed like sound wisdom.
Yeah.
And that's what I think his ministry does for our kingdom. You
Mhm.
know, our body of Christ, it offers like this sound wisdom to make you
Mhm.
really think.
Mhm.
And in one of his sermons, he talked about anything outside of God will eventually become a monster and destroy you.
Ooh. He ain't never
Like,
lied.
yeah, anything that you put your trust in outside of God will eventually become a monster and assassinate you.
It's truth.
And
It's
that is
truth.
so true.
It's so true.
It is
It is.
so true.
It is so true, dude. Like and that is, and you know, like you said, the crazy thing about it is it can be anything. That's
Anything.
the word, anything. Because, like you said, and the sad and the crazy thing about it is, you know, when I want y'all to understand when you hear the word monster, when you hear the word
Mhm.
monster, because what we have what we have the inclination to do is we may hear a certain word and we already go to the negative. Oh, okay. Oh, you talking about a monster. Oh, you talking about, oh, if I start drinking too much or I start doing this too much. It's like, no, anything,
Any
listen, you can put your hope in something as innocent as, man, you know what, man, this is, I'm here to do this. I'm here to do, we read this morning, man, I'm here to do charity. I'm here to be a charitable person. That's
mm,
my purpose. That's my thing. You know what I mean? I love to do that. And my hope is like to see people encouraged and helped because I'm charitable. And it's
yes.
like, on the surface, right? And not even just the surface, that is a good thing. That is a thing that the Lord approves of, that people are charitable, that we are givers. But it's even in something that's, you can take something as simple as that. And when you put it, your hope in that, where it's like it starts to become something that you rely on for peace, rely on for identity, your ability to do something, that thing is going to start to warp a little bit. And
Mhm.
if you stay in that wrong mindset about it too long, your motivations will change, your intentions will change, your ability to be hopeful in that will change, your ability to be satisfied in what you're doing will change.
Yeah.
And eventually it will betray you. And
It
like
will
you said,
betray you.
it will become that monster. And even something that seems good, when it's not anchored in God, it's gonna betray you.
It'll eat you up.
It'll eat you up.
It'll eat you up. You know, I've been thinking about 2020 and reflecting on it, and I think it's so important. The process of reflection is really important for our hope
Yeah.
because when we reflect, we take stock of what has happened
Mhm.
and we have an opportunity to build upon things that went well and
Mhm.
also to make adjustments to the areas that did not go well.
Yes.
And I believe from my view and my perspective of how things went down in 2020, I think the circumstances that happened in the world, like everything that's went down, like God called all of our bluffs.
My goodness. My goodness.
Now, I'm not saying like God sent this virus to the world and he meant for all this evil to happen. Like clearly not. God
Mhm.
does not rejoice in people suffering. Scripture makes that clear. He doesn't rejoice
Right.
in the death of the wicked.
Right.
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 So if
Right.
he doesn't rejoice in the death of the wicked, then he doesn't rejoice in the suffering and the death of the righteous either. So
Right.
like
Right.
God's character is not that kind of way. We
Right.
don't always understand his will. We don't know why a global pandemic has hit our world and caused all these issues and things are just blowing up left and right. We don't know
Right.
why we're experiencing all of this, but we
Right.
do know God is sovereign
Right.
and that He uses these kind of things to draw us to Himself.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, I believe God called all of our bluffs, no
Yes.
matter who you are, if you're a
Mm-hmm.
Christian or not, but
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're a believer.
My goodness.
Because in Matthew 7, starting at 24, Jesus begins his parable talking about the wise and the foolish builders. And I
Mm-hmm.
love this parable so much because he starts it off by saying this: therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And then he goes on
Well.
to talk about, this rain comes and the streams rose and the winds blew and it beat against the house, but it
Mm,
didn't fall. And
mm,
this same storm comes and beats against the foolish man's house who was built on sand on an unstable foundation, and his house crumbles.
wow.
And there was a great crash. But I really love how Jesus started. He said, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice.
Mm,
And what I mean by, God calling all of our bluffs, even with believers, we have to reckon with the fact that we haven't followed God's words exactly like we should.
oh, that's good.
And things have crashed in our lives
That's good.
in our own respective ways.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your crash may not be as big as other people's crash,
Right.
but it happened.
Yes. And it happened. Oh my goodness. It happened, bro. And that crash, that last year was like when Denzel watching the movie The Equalizer.
Yes, bro.
The Equalizer. It don't matter.
Beast.
Hey, listen, like, word, are you a believer? 2020. Oh, you not a believer?
2020.
2020.
2020.
Like, it don't matter who you were affected. You were affected. And like you said, I love that you made that clear that God isn't just sitting here like, oh yeah, they suffering, let's go. Like, no, he's
Yes.
not rejoicing in us going through, pain. But like you said, he is sovereign and will allow things to give us a good, healthy, equal gut check. He will allow things
Yes.
to give us a gut check. And when I say
Yes.
equal, obviously, I know some people went through more last year than others. So I'm not trying to make light
Yes.
of that part. But what I'm saying to you is this: God will allow things to happen that everyone has to reckon with. And
Yes.
when it gets to that point where everyone, they say when everyone is on the same playing field, you see where you really are. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It don't, like, I love this. I forgot who said it, but they always say, like, there's no first class when a plane is crashing. There is no
Come on.
ain't no first class, no
No, sir.
concierge, ain't no
No,
none of
bro.
that. We all on the same level right now when it junk going down.
Yes,
And
bro.
but it really did, man. It really made I think that the good thing about it was that it really did make everyone have to do readjustments and reevaluation of our lives,
Mhm.
reevaluation of our priorities, reevaluation of what we were laboring over, what we were spending so much time on, what we were wasting so
Yes.
much time on. It's
Yes.
like, you it was, I know for sure, even in my own life, what I mean? I know that there were things that this time last year, we just, man, we just living it up. It's like, oh, New Year, bro. We finna
Hey.
2020, bro. The vision, hey,
Hey, new year, new me, baby.
New year, new me. You know what I'm saying? 2020 vision, boy. Like,
20
hey, you know what
20
I'm saying?
Man.
Ain't nobody see this. Ain't nobody see this coming.
Hey, 2020 vision, but nobody saw this, bro.
Nobody saw this. Nobody saw this. But it immediately, it made you reevaluate, like, dang, man, how much time am I spending with my family? How often am I talking
Mhm.
to my family? How am I prioritizing my time with God enough? Am I prioritizing is this the job I want to work? Is this the
Yes,
type of,
bro.
if it
Yes.
is this are these the activities I need to be associated in? Are these the people I want to be in relationship right now? Are these things, if life ended for me right now, would most of my life be, or most of my time be spent in things that were frivolous and things that were not
Yes.
overall purposeful or gonna be able to leave a good legacy. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That thing, God will allow things to happen like this where it makes you have to really look in the mirror and see what is real and what is not.
Yes. And especially, we're talking about this from, a Christian perspective, and for our Christian listeners, people who have made a commitment to follow Jesus, and
Hmm.
that is, a public commitment announcement they made.
Right.
I love that we've been given this gift of an
Yes.
opportunity
Yes.
to assess what is real and what isn't in our lives. What is real and what's imaginary. What is of substance and what is of our own creation.
Man. Oh my
Um,
goodness.
like what are we really putting our hope in?
Yes.
Because what I love about that scripture when Jesus says, anybody who listens to my words and puts them into practice,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, and puts them into practice, and how 2020 came and the storm of 2020 came and tested the integrity of our foundation. It
Mm-hmm.
tested the integrity of what we've been building.
Mm-hmm.
And however 2020 impacted you, it really gave us an opportunity to say, like, okay, Lord, I know that I've been saying this. I've been giving a lot of lip service about, Lord, I'll
Mm-hmm.
trust you. I'll follow
Mm-hmm.
you. I surrender all. I surrender all. Yeah, but like when you are like facing situations that we've all had to face,
Mm-hmm.
and those challenges get to you,
Mm-hmm.
like, that really tells the truth about what's going on. Like,
I'm
what's
telling
really, it helps you assess, and I think it's a gift.
you, it is.
It's a mercy of God, actually,
Yeah, it
because
is.
he wants your heart, and that's the new covenant of Jesus Christ.
Come
He
on.
wants our hearts.
Come on.
And so that I think that is so important, and thank God that he called my bluff,
Boy.
because I've had to just assess and reflect on places in my life where I thought I was like Christ said, I thought I was listening and putting into practice his words,
Mm-hmm.
but I was just listening. I really wasn't putting it into practice.
Man, come on.
And so, yeah, that's so important to our walk with the Lord, is to really put it into practice
Put
and
it
to
in the fight.
assess the crash. When things crash, to not like try to move on, like,
Mm.
oh Lord, just like praise and worship out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right, 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 right,
Like, you
right.
need to, you need to, go into praise mode.
You got
Praise for your breakthrough.
it. Right.
Like, there's a time and place for that, of course.
Right.
But when things crash, you really need to sit and assess, like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus said that if I build on a solid foundation, that
Right.
the storm will not push over my house.
Right.
So if something has been pushed over, we need to assess why.
Right. You gotta assess the wreckage. And there ain't, like you say, every crack, everything, you have to assess the wreckage. It doesn't matter, you know what I mean, how big or how small, you got to assess it, you know what I mean? And like you said, listening to Jesus and putting his words into practice, man. One thing that I have truly seen, this past year was, where people are like, okay, Jesus, you said you would never leave me nor forsake me. I believe you. Word. Okay. Let's see. You know what I mean? Like
Let's
that's
see.
that's let's see. Let's see. And that's one thing that I want to encourage everyone out there who's listening, especially maybe if you aren't a believer, man. When we are talking about Jesus, we are not talking about some imaginary, some God that's just gonna grant everything, every wish you have, every delight. You
Mm-mm.
know what I'm saying? No, we're
Some
not.
genie.
We're no genie. We're not talking about a genie. This ain't Aladdin. We are talking about Jesus. Like,
It's in
talking,
Aladdin.
yeah, this ain't Aladdin. Like, we're not sitting here promising you um carefree life. We're not promising that at all. What we are promising to you, and this ain't even just off of our own strength, bro. We really not. This is off of what Jesus said to us, that he said, no matter what is going on in your life, he will never leave you nor forsake you. And so whether you are going through the worst time of your life or the best time of your life, whether it's a minor setback or the major setback, Jesus has pledged, if you will submit him, he is pledged that, hey, I am going to be right there when you are suffering, when you are hurting, when you can't understand what's going on, when you won't even, when your mind can't even fathom the magnitude of what's happening to you right now.
Yes, man.
He said, I will be right there with you. And one thing about us as humans, when things are going crazy in life, whether it's losing a job or whether it's sickness in our body or whether it's losing a family member, the one thing that you never want to be, regardless of if it is crazy, you never want to be alone.
Yes.
No one, I guarantee you, if me and you, we going through the crazy junk, we going through the crazy junk ever that we can't do anything about right now, we don't want to be alone.
No, we don't.
And that's Jesus promises. And that doesn't mean he's not going to do anything about your situation. But what I'm saying to you is he will be there with you.
Yes. Yes. He said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. The ones that God, my Father, has placed into my care, Jesus promised that he won't lose one.
Not one.
He won't lose one. And so he definitely won't lose you. And that is our hope we do this next season 2 of the Do Well Collective podcast.
Yes.
As we stand at the foothills of 2021,
yes,
this is how we prepare ourselves for the journey.
Yes.
Because life is a journey and we're in another chapter of life with this year. So take some time, assess, pray, sit with the Lord. Before you do the praise breakthrough and shout and declare all that's, God's going to do in your life.
Yeah.
Do that. Please do that.
Yes.
That is necessary, but it takes some time to reflect.
Yes.
And take stock of what went well and what didn't and make those adjustments. So that's it for this episode.
Yeah.
Season 2 is going to be amazing. We're going to have some great discussions just like this. We're also going to have some awesome guests to join and share with us in our conversations.
Yes, sir. Man, well, we thank y'all again for listening in. Welcome back. Season 2 of the Do Well Collective podcast. We will talk to you soon. Peace.
Peace.
Hey, it's Jalen from the Do Well Collective podcast. Thank you for listening. I'd like to invite you to subscribe and review our podcast. If this episode encouraged you, we love to hear how. Our mission is to see your faith come alive and be put to work in all you do. So once again, thank you for listening, and we will see you next episode. Let's do well.